All right, today we're jumping into one of the absolute strangest chapters in all of military history. Seriously, it's a story of man versus beast, machine guns versus, well, feathers. And it's a conflict that proves, sometimes nature gets the last laugh.
So let's just kick things off with this quote because it perfectly captures the sheer absurdity of what we're about to talk about. This was the conclusion from the man in charge, Major Meredith, after he faced his enemies. And yes, you guessed it, he's talking about emus. You heard that right. This is not a drill. Back in 1932, right in the middle of the Great Depression, the Australian military actually launched an official operation. We're talking soldiers, machine guns, all deployed against a giant flock of emus. This was a real declared military campaign.
So how in the world did this happen? How did it get to this point? Let's set the stage and meet the combatants in what would later be known as the Great Emu War.
I mean, just look at the matchup here. It's incredible. On one side, you've got the Royal Australian Artillery. They've got 2 modern Lewis machine guns, 10,000 rounds of ammo, the whole shebang. And on the other side, about 20,000 emus. And their weapons? Well, they can run up to 31 miles per hour, they have these uncanny evasion tactics, and they apparently had a leader, a big black-plumed bird that acted as a lookout. You can't make this stuff up.
So, you've got the troops on the ground. The guns are ready to go. How did this supposedly foolproof military plan actually play out in the field?
Well, the whole thing was short, chaotic, and just plain embarrassing for the Army. That first attempt in early November, a total disaster. They tried to ambush 1,000 birds, but the gun jammed and they maybe got a dozen kills. The press had a field day, so the Army pulled out. But then the farmers protested, so they got sent back out a week later. By December 10th, the whole thing was called off for good.
And the numbers just show how wild this was. The Army fired almost 10,000 rounds of ammunition. And for all that, the official count was just 986 emus killed. Think about that. That's about 10 bullets for every single emu. It was a logistical nightmare and a total tactical failure.
And here's the thing, the emus weren't just running around scared. It was like they knew what was happening. This ornithologist, Dominic Serventi, he noted it was as if they were using actual military strategy. The emus would scatter into these small groups, which made the machine guns pretty much useless. They just refused to bunch up and make it easy for the gunners. In a way, they completely outsmarted the Army.
Okay, this all brings us to the biggest question, right? Why? Why on earth would a national army be sent to fight birds? The answer, well, it's a perfect storm of desperation, economic collapse, and a totally different way of looking at the world.
See, this wasn't just about some annoying birds. After World War I, a lot of veterans were given really poor farmland. Then, the Great Depression hits, the price of wheat just tanks, and government help that was promised never showed up. And right when they thought things couldn't get any worse, 20,000 emus show up. They're tearing down fences, eating the crops. The farmers, many of them ex-soldiers themselves, were at their breaking point. They asked for the only tool they thought could solve a problem this big. Machine gun. And, there's a deeper reason this was even an option. Historians call it a hierarchy of protection. Basically, in that colonial mindset of the time, native animals like emus were often just seen as pests, as vermin. They were an obstacle to creating a productive British-style farm. So they're at the very bottom of the ladder. And getting rid of them was seen as a practical thing to do, not a tragedy.
So the military goes home, tail between its legs. The emus have basically won, but the farmers still have a huge problem on their hands. So, what happened next? Turns out a much simpler and way more effective solution was right around the corner. Yeah, instead of machine guns, they turned to stuff that actually worked. A bounty system, which had been around before, got a big boost, and it was effective. In just 6 months, in 1934, over 57,000 bounties were claimed. But the real game changer was simple infrastructure. The government started building these massive emu-proof fences to just keep the birds out of the farmland. Problem solved. The war itself was a total bust, but the story,
Oh, the story was just getting started. Let's look at how this truly humiliating military operation turned into this beloved piece of Australian identity and now a piece of global internet lore.
What's so wild is how this moment of real national embarrassment slowly became a point of weird national pride. It's the ultimate underdog story, isn't it? Nature outsmarting human arrogance. It really speaks to that unique Australian sense of humor and that complicated, deep connection with its own wild backyard. And today, the Great Emu War is probably more famous than it's ever been. It's an endless source of internet memes, there are comedy movies being made about it, and it's a story that just keeps popping up on social media. It's become this piece of global folklore, a hilarious symbol of that one time humanity picked a fight with nature and got absolutely decisively beaten.
And honestly, who could sum it up better than the defeated commander himself? In his final report, Major Meredith compared the emus to tanks and to Zulu warriors. It's this bizarre compliment, a strange sign of respect for the birds that had so completely outplayed him. It's just the perfect, surreal ending to the whole thing.
So what's the big takeaway here? The Great Emu War is funny, for sure, but it's also a pretty powerful reminder. It really makes you wonder, right? How often do we just throw brute force at a problem